The morning sun of 3 different colors rose over the Galactic Combat Academy. Orange, blue, and white light mixed together and painted the sky in strange and beautiful ways. Stood near the window of her small room and watched the sunrise. She had been at the academy for 2 years now, but she still was not used to seeing 3 suns in the sky. She was a human, one of only 12 humans at the academy. The galaxy was a big place and humans had only joined it 50 years ago. To most alien species, humans were new, weak, and not very impressive. They did not have claws like they did not have thick skin like they could not see in the dark like humans were just soft. But did not care what others thought. She had come here to prove something, not to the galaxy, not to the aliens. She wanted to prove something to herself. A loud sound came from outside her door. It was the morning bell. Time to wake up and begin the day, put on her gray uniform and tied her dark hair into a tight ponytail. She looked at herself in the small mirror on the wall. Her face was calm. Her eyes were focused. She was ready. The hallway outside was full of cadets from different planets. Some had scales, some had fur, some had skin that changed color when they walked, moved through the crowd without speaking. She was used to being alone here. The other humans were in different training groups and the aliens did not talk to her much. That was fine. She did not need friends. She needed to train. The main hall of the academy was a huge open space with high ceilings and floating lights. Hundreds of cadets stood in neat rows, waiting for the morning announcement. Found her spot and stood still. She could feel eyes on her. Some aliens looked at her with confusion. Some looked at her with pity. A few looked at her with something that felt like hate. Commander stepped onto the stage at the front of the hall. He was one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. His body was tall and covered in dark green scales. He had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. His yellow eyes moved slowly across the crowd. "Cadets," he said. His voice was deep and loud. "Today I have an important announcement. The annual combat trial is coming in 10 days. A wave of whispers moved through the crowd. The combat trial was the biggest event of the year. It was a one-on-one fight between cadets from different species. Winning the trial meant honor, respect, and a fast path to becoming a real soldier. Raised one of his hands and the room became quiet again. "This year, we will have a special match. The undefeated champion of has agreed to fight one more time before he graduates." More whispers had heard of everyone had. He was a legend at the academy. He had won 40 fights in a row. No one had ever beaten him. Some said he was the strongest fighter they had ever produced. Continued, "We are looking for someone to face him, someone brave, someone who wants to test themselves against the best." The room was silent. No one moved. No one raised their hand. Fighting was not a test. It was a death sentence. Even the strongest cadets looked at the floor. Then slowly, a hand went up in the back of the room. It was. The whispers became loud talking. Aliens pointed at her. Some laughed. A human. A human wanted to fight. It was a joke. It had to be a joke. Commander looked at her with his yellow eyes. His face showed no emotion. "You," he said, "human, come forward." Walked through the crowd. She kept her head high and her eyes forward. She could hear the words around her. Crazy, stupid, she will die. She ignored all of it. She reached the front of the hall and stood before the commander. "What is your name?" asked. She said, her voice was steady. "You know who is?" "Yes." "You know he has never lost?" "Yes." Leaned forward. His face was close to hers now. She could smell his breath. It was hot and smelled like metal. "Why do you want to fight him?" Did not look away. "Because I am not afraid." A moment of silence passed, then laughed. It was a strange, rough sound. Other in the room laughed too. The sound filled the hall like thunder. "Not afraid," repeated. "The human is not afraid." He stood straight again and looked at the crowd. "Very well. The match is set. In 10 days we'll face the human cadet." The laughing continued as walked back to her spot in the crowd. She did not care. Let them laugh. Let them think she was crazy. She had 10 days to prepare and she would use every second of it. After the morning announcement, went to the training room. It was a large space with exercise machines and fighting areas. Most cadets trained in groups, but always trained alone. She found a quiet corner and began her workout. First she ran. She ran until her legs hurt. Then she ran more. Humans were not the fastest species, but they could run for a very long time. This was something most aliens did not understand. They could move quickly in short bursts, but they got tired fast. Humans were different. Humans could keep going. Next, she practiced her fighting moves. She punched the training bag over and over. She kicked it until her feet were sore. She practiced dodging, moving her body left and right, forward and back. Speed and movement were her best weapons. She could not match the strength of it, so she would not try. She would be fast. She would be smart. Hours passed. Other cadets came and went. Some watched her train for a moment, then shook their heads and walked away. They thought she was wasting her time. They thought she was already dead. When the training session ended, sat on the floor and drank water. Her body was tired, but her mind was clear. She thought about his size, his strength, his 4 arms. She thought about how she could possibly beat him. Then she smiled. She had 10 days, and she had a plan. The 10 days passed quickly, trained every day from morning until night. She studied videos of past fights. She watched him move. She watched him attack. She learned his patterns, his habits, the small things he did before he struck. Every fighter had a tell. Every fighter had a weakness. She just needed to find his. On the morning of the fight, woke up before the suns rose. She sat on her bed in the darkness and took slow, deep breaths. Her heart was calm. Her hands were steady. She had done everything she could to prepare. Now it was time to see if it was enough. She put on her fighting clothes, a simple gray suit that fit tight against her body. It allowed her to move freely. She tied her hair back and looked at herself in the mirror one more time. The face that looked back at her was not afraid. It was ready. A knock came at her door. She opened it and found Minyu standing there. He was another human cadet, 1 year older than her. He had kind eyes and a worried expression. He said, "Are you really doing this?" "Yes," she replied. Minyu shook his head. "I watched fight last year. He broke his arm in 3 places. Their bones are 3 times stronger than ours." Nodded, "I know." "Then why are you doing this?" She thought about the question for a moment. Then she said, "Because someone has to show them what humans can do. If not me, then who?" Minyu did not have an answer for that. He just looked at her with his worried eyes. "I need to go," said. "The fight starts soon." She walked past him and headed toward the arena. The combat arena was the largest building at the academy. It was made of a special crystal that glowed with inner light. The walls were clear, so people could watch from outside. Inside, thousands of seats circled a round fighting platform in the center. Today, every seat was full. Species from across the galaxy had come to watch. They were with their green scales and 4 arms. They were with their rocky gray skin. They were with their large black eyes that could see in total darkness. There were dozens of other species too, shapes and colors that did not even have names for. All of them had come to see the same thing. They had come to watch a human get destroyed. Walked through the entrance tunnel. The noise from the crowd hit her like a wave. It was loud, shouting, roaring, laughing. She kept walking. The tunnel opened up onto the fighting platform and she stepped into the light. The platform was made of smooth white stone. It was flat and round, about 50 meters across. There were no weapons here, no tricks, just 2 fighters and their bodies. The winner was the one who forced the other to give up or who knocked the other out. Walked to the center of the platform and waited. She could feel the eyes of thousands of aliens on her. She heard their voices. "Look at her, so small. Humans are fragile creatures. This will be over quickly. I heard can punch through metal. What chance does she have? Ignored all of it, she focused on her breathing, in and out, slow and steady. Then the crowd on the other side of the arena began to roar. It was a sound of excitement and fear mixed together. Looked up and saw walking out of the opposite tunnel. He was massive, 3 meters tall. His body was thick with muscle, covered in dark green scales that looked like armor. His 4 arms hung at his sides, each one ending in hands with sharp claws. His head was large, with a flat face and small yellow eyes. Those eyes found and locked onto her. He walked toward her with slow, heavy steps. Each step made a sound on the stone floor. Boom, boom, boom. The crowd grew louder with each step he took. When he reached the center of the platform, he stopped. He stood only a few meters away from. He was so tall that she had to look up to see his face. For a long moment he just stared at her. Then he spoke. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "You are the human who is not afraid." Nodded, "I am." Tilted his head to the side. "You are small, even for a human." "Size is not everything," said. A sound came from his throat. It might have been a laugh. "Brave words. I have heard many brave words from my opponents. They all fall the same way." "Then let us find out if I fall like them," replied. Commander's voice filled the arena through the speakers. "The combat trial will now begin, of the versus of Earth. The fight ends when one fighter surrenders or is unable to continue. Begin on my signal." The arena fell silent. Every eye watched the 2 fighters. Lowered his body into a fighting stance, all 4 arms raised and ready. His muscles tensed. He was like a coiled spring ready to explode. Raised her hands and shifted her weight to the balls of her feet. She felt light. She felt ready. His voice rang out, "Begin." Moved first. He was fast, much faster than something his size should be. He charged forward, crossing the distance between them in just 2 steps. His upper right arm swung toward her head with enough force to break stone. Was already moving. She dropped low and rolled to the side. The fist passed over her head, so close that she felt the wind of it against her hair. She came up on her feet behind him and danced back, putting distance between them. The crowd gasped. They had expected the fight to end with that first punch. Turned to face her. His yellow eyes showed a new emotion now, interest. "You are quick," he said. "Thank you," replied. He attacked again. This time he used all 4 arms, swinging them in a pattern that was hard to follow. Left, right, low, high, the attacks came from every direction. Moved like water, bending and twisting, never staying in one place for more than a moment. She did not try to block. Blocking was useless against that kind of strength. She could only dodge. One punch grazed her shoulder and sent pain shooting down her arm, but she kept moving. She could not stop. For the next few minutes the pattern continued. Attacked, dodged. He was strong, but she was fast. He tried to corner her, but she always found a way out. The crowd began to quiet down. This was not what they expected. The human was still standing. Stopped his attack and stepped back. He was breathing harder now. Not tired, not yet, but surprised. In all his fights, no one had avoided his attacks for this long. "You are not fighting back," he said. Smiled. It was a small, confident smile. "I am waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For you to make a mistake." His yellow eyes narrowed. He did not like that answer. He did not like it at all. He roared and charged again, faster than before, harder than before. The real fight had just begun. Second attack was different. He was no longer testing her. He was no longer holding back. He came at her with full force, his 4 arms moving so fast they looked like a blur of green and black. His world became very small. There was only the next punch, only the next movement. Her body moved on instinct, following the pattern she had practiced thousands of times. Duck, step, turn, jump. Every second was a fight to survive. A fist caught her side. The pain was sharp and immediate. She felt something crack, maybe a rib. She gasped but kept moving. She could not stop. If she stopped, she died. Another punch came for her head. She leaned back just in time, feeling the claws pass in front of her face. So close, too close. She needed to create distance. She jumped backward, putting several meters between them. Her side hurt badly. Every breath sent pain through her body, but she was still standing. She was still in the fight. The crowd was completely silent now. No one was laughing anymore. No one was making jokes about the weak human. They were all watching with wide eyes and open mouths. Looked at her with his yellow eyes. He was not smiling. He was not amused. For the first time in many years, he was facing a real challenge. "You are hurt," he said. Nodded, "Yes." "You should surrender. There is no shame in losing to me." "I am not going to surrender." His jaw tightened. "Then I will have to break you." He came at her again, but this time was ready. She had spent 10 days watching his fighting videos. She had learned all his patterns. She knew that when he attacked with his upper right arm, his lower left side was open for a brief moment. It was a small weakness, but it was there. She waited for it. Duck, step, turn, there. His upper right arm swung toward her, and for just 1 second his lower left was unprotected. Struck. Her fist hit the soft spot between his scales, right below his ribs. She put all her strength into it, all her weight, everything she had. Made a sound. It was not loud, but it was a sound of pain, real pain. The first pain he had felt in a fight in years. The arena exploded with noise. Aliens of all species jumped to their feet. They could not believe what they had just seen. A human, a small, weak human, had landed a clean hit on the undefeated. Stepped back and touched the spot where she had hit him. His yellow eyes were wide with shock. Then they narrowed with anger. "You hit me," he said. His voice was low and dangerous. "I did," replied. She was breathing hard. Her side was screaming with pain, but she did not look away from him. "No one has hit me in 12 fights." "Then you were fighting the wrong opponents." A growl came from his throat. It was a deep, animal sound that made the air vibrate. Some members of the crowd stepped back, even though they were far from the fighting platform. He attacked again, but this time he was different. He was angry, and angry fighters made mistakes. Saw it immediately. His movements were faster but less controlled. He was swinging wildly, trying to hit her with pure force instead of skill. She dodged to the left, and his punch hit empty air. She moved to the right, and he missed again. She found another opening. This time she hit his knee, right at the joint where the scales did not fully cover. He stumbled just a little, just for a moment, but he stumbled. The crowd roared again. Some of them were even cheering for her now. The aliens who had laughed at her that morning were watching with serious faces. Something impossible was happening in front of their eyes. But knew she could not keep this up forever. Her body was getting tired. Her hurt rib made it hard to breathe. Each dodge was a little slower than the one before. She needed to end this fight soon, or she would lose. She looked at, he was tired too. She could see it in his movements. Were strong and fast, but they did not have much stamina. They were built for quick, powerful fights, not long battles. Every time he missed, he used more energy. Every second the fight continued, he got a little weaker. This was the human advantage. Humans could not run fast like some species. They could not hit hard like others, but they could keep going. They could outlast almost anyone. It was how humans had survived on Earth, chasing animals for hours until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. Just had to hold on. She dodged another punch, and another, and another. Her body was screaming at her to stop, to rest, to give up, but she kept moving, she kept fighting. Time seemed to slow down. Minutes passed, maybe 10, maybe 20. Attacks became slower, his breathing became louder, his movements became sloppy. Saw her chance. He threw a wide punch with his upper left arm, too wide, too slow. She ducked under it and moved inside his guard. For one moment she was close to him, closer than she had been in the entire fight. She hit him with everything she had left. 3 quick punches to the same spot below his ribs. 1, 2, 3. Roared in pain. He tried to grab her with his lower arms, but she was already moving away, sliding back out of his reach. He stood there, his hand pressed against his side. His breathing was rough and heavy. For the first time in the fight, he looked like he was in real trouble. The crowd was on their feet. The cheering was so loud they could barely hear her own thoughts. She looked up at the thousands of faces watching her, faces of aliens who had doubted her, who had laughed at her, who had thought she was nothing. She was still standing. She was still fighting. And for the first time, the undefeated looked like he could be defeated. Took a deep breath. The pain in her side was bad. Her arms felt like they were made of lead. Every part of her body was begging her to quit. But she smiled instead. The fight was not over yet. Stood in the center of the arena with his hand pressed against his wounded side. His yellow eyes never left his face. There was something new in those eyes now, something that had not been there at the start of the fight. Respect. You are not like other humans I have seen, he said. His voice was rougher than before. He was in pain. You are different. Shook her head. I am not different. I am exactly like every other human. We just never had a chance to show you what we can do. Then perhaps I have been wrong about your species. Yes, said, you have. Straightened up. He pulled his hand away from his side and raised all 4 arms again. The pain was clear on his face, but he pushed through it. He was a warrior. He would not stop until the fight was over. I will not hold back anymore, he said. Almost laughed. If that was him holding back, she did not want to see his full strength. But she raised her hands anyway and prepared herself. The next few minutes were the hardest of her life. Attacked with a fury she had not seen before. His punches came faster, harder, more accurate. He was not fighting with anger anymore. He was fighting with everything he had learned in his years of training. He was fighting to win. Could barely keep up. Her dodges became desperate. Her movements became sloppy. She could feel her body giving up, muscle by muscle. A punch caught her shoulder and spun her around. Before she could recover, another punch hit her back and sent her flying across the platform. She hit the stone floor hard and rolled several times before stopping. The crowd gasped. Some covered their eyes. They thought it was over. Lay on the ground. Every part of her body hurt. Her shoulder felt like it was on fire. Her back felt like it was broken. She could barely breathe. Get up. The voice in her head was small but strong. It was her own voice, the voice she had listened to all her life. The voice that had told her to keep going when everyone else said to stop. Get up, you are not finished yet. Slowly, painfully, pushed herself onto her hands and knees. The crowd fell silent. They watched her struggle to rise, their faces showing surprise and confusion. Stay down, said. He walked toward her with slow steps. There is no shame in losing, you have fought well. Got one foot under her, then the other. She stood up. Her legs were shaking, her arms hung at her sides. Blood ran down from a cut on her forehead, but she was standing. I told you, she said, her voice rough and tired. I am not afraid. Something changed in his eyes. The respect grew deeper. But he was a warrior, and warriors did not stop fighting until the battle was truly over. He came at her again. His body moved before her mind could think. She had trained for so long that the movements were automatic now. Duck, step, turn. Even in her damaged state, even when she could barely stand, her body remembered what to do. She dodged his first punch, then his second, then his third. She was slower than before, much slower, but she was still moving, still fighting. And was getting tired. They were built for short, explosive battles. Their powerful bodies used up energy quickly. In a normal fight, this did not matter because the fight was over in minutes. But this was not a normal fight. This fight had been going on for almost half an hour now. Could see it in his movements. His punches were slower. His footwork was sloppy. His breathing was heavy and loud. He was using everything he had left just to stay on his feet. She just needed to hold on a little longer. A punch came at her face. She moved her head to the side and the fist passed by her ear. She stepped inside his guard, the same move that had worked before. This time she aimed for a different spot. She hit the back of his left knee, where the scales were thin. His leg buckled. He stumbled forward, trying to catch himself with his lower arms. For one moment he was off balance. Did not waste the chance. She jumped onto his back and wrapped her arms around his neck. She squeezed as hard as she could. It was a choke hold, one of the oldest fighting techniques on Earth. Humans had been using it for thousands of years. It did not require strength, it just required time. Roared and thrashed. He tried to pull her off with his forearms. He spun around, trying to shake her loose. He slammed his back against the ground, crushing her beneath his weight. The pain was incredible, felt like her whole body was breaking apart. But she did not let go. She held on with everything she had. Seconds passed, they felt like hours. His movements became weaker. His roars became quieter. The thrashing slowed down. The crowd was screaming. Some were cheering for to break free. Others were cheering for to hold on. The noise was like a storm, shaking the very walls of the arena. Fell to one knee. His forearms dropped to his sides. His head began to lean forward. Squeezed harder. She could feel her arms going numb. She could feel her grip slipping. Just a few more seconds, just a few more. And then, with a sound like a falling tree, collapsed onto the ground. Released her hold and rolled away from him. She lay on the cold stone floor looking up at the crystal ceiling. Her vision was blurry. Her hearing was muffled. Everything felt far away. But she had won. She had actually won. The arena was chaos. Aliens of every species were on their feet, shouting and pointing. Some looked angry, some looked confused, and some, just a few, looked amazed. Commander's voice came through the speakers, cutting through the noise like a knife. The fight is over. The winner is, of Earth. Closed her eyes and smiled. She had done it. Did not know how long she lay on the ground. Time had lost all meaning. The noise of the crowd faded in and out like waves on a beach. Her body felt like it belonged to someone else, distant and heavy and broken. A face appeared above her. It was Minyu, the human cadet who had tried to stop her that morning. His eyes were wide with tears. He said, his voice sounded far away, "Can you hear me?" She tried to speak, but only a small sound came out. She nodded instead. Minyu laughed. It was a strange sound, half laugh, half cry. "You did it, you actually did it." More faces appeared. Another human cadet, the youngest of the human group, who never talked to anyone. They were all there, all looking down at her with the same expression of disbelief and joy. "We need to get her to the medical center," someone said. Felt hands lifting her, carrying her. The ceiling of the arena moved above her, and then she was moving through the tunnel, away from the noise and the lights. She passed out before they reached the medical center. When she woke up, she was lying on a soft bed. The ceiling above her was white and plain. The smell of clean air and medicine filled her nose. She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her body and she fell back down. "Do not move," a voice said. It was a doctor, a small creature with large black eyes and gray fur. "You have 3 broken ribs, a fractured shoulder, and more bruises than I can count. You need rest." "How long was I asleep?" asked. Her voice was rough and dry. 2 days. 2 days, closed her eyes. 2 days of sleep, and her body still felt like it had been run over by a spacecraft. "You have visitors," the doctor said. "Many visitors. They have been waiting since you were brought in." The door to the room opened and Minyu walked in. Behind him came, and several other human cadets. Their faces lit up when they saw she was awake. Rushed to her bedside. "We were so worried. The doctors said you might need weeks to recover." "I have heard that humans are strong," the doctor said from the corner of the room. "But I did not believe it until now. I should have been able to kill her with those injuries. Yet here she is, awake and talking, most curious." Managed a small smile. "We do not break easily." The other humans gathered around her bed, all talking at once. They told her about the reaction after the fight. The news had spread across the galaxy. Video of the battle was being watched on every planet. Everyone was talking about the human who beat the undefeated. "The council is meeting to discuss what happened," Minyu said. "Some of them are angry. They say the fight was not fair." "Not fair," said with anger. "She beat him in a straight fight. How is that not fair?" "They are not used to losing," explained, "especially not to humans." Listen to them talk. She was too tired to say much, but she felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with her injuries. For the first time since coming to the academy, she did not feel alone. A knock came at the door. Everyone turned to look. The door opened and a large figure stepped into the room. It was. The human cadets moved back quickly, their faces showing fear, but did not move. She just looked at the massive who had almost killed her 2 days ago. Walked slowly to her bed. He looked different now. Smaller, somehow, even though he was still huge. There were bandages on his neck and side, covering the places where she had hurt him. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then did something no one expected. He lowered himself to one knee and bowed his head. "I came to offer my respect," he said. His rough voice was quiet now, almost gentle. "In 40 fights, no one has ever pushed me as hard as you did. No one has ever made me think I might lose." Did not know what to say. She had expected anger from him. Hate maybe, but not this. "You taught me something," continued. "You taught me that strength is not just about muscles and claws. It is about the spirit. It is about refusing to quit even when the body wants to give up." He raised his yellow eyes to meet hers. "Humans have that spirit. I understand that now." He stood up and reached out with one of his massive hands, palm up, open. In culture, this was a sign of friendship and respect. Reached out with her good arm and placed her small hand on top of his. The difference in size was almost funny. His hand could crush hers with no effort at all. But there was no danger now, only understanding. "Good fight," said. His mouth moved in what might have been a smile. "Good fight." He turned and walked out of the room, leaving the human cadets in stunned silence. Over the next few weeks, things changed at the academy. The other species began to look at humans differently, not with pity or confusion, but with something new: curiosity, interest, maybe even fear. Was invited to speak at the council meeting. She stood before the leaders of a dozen species and told them about humans, about their history, about their nature, about why they never gave up, even when everything was against them. "We are not the strongest," she said. "We are not the fastest. We are not the biggest, but we survive, we adapt, we keep going when others stop. That is what makes us human." When she finished speaking, the room was quiet. Then, one by one, the council members began to nod. They understood now. Humans were not a weak species to be ignored. They were something new, something different. Something the galaxy needed to pay attention to. On the day was released from the medical center, she walked back to her small room. The 3 suns were setting, painting the sky in colors of orange and blue and white. She stood by the window and watched them sink below the horizon. She thought about her journey, the years of training, the long nights of study, the day she raised her hand and volunteered to fight a monster, the moment she refused to stay down even when her body was broken. She had come to this academy as a nobody, a human from a species that no one cared about. But now things were different. Now the galaxy knew what humans could do. And this was just the beginning. She touched the glass of the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were living their lives, not knowing what had happened at this academy, not knowing that one of them had changed how the galaxy saw their species. But they would find out, and when they did, more humans would come. More humans would prove themselves. More humans would show the galaxy that they were not weak. They were human. And that was enough. Smiled and turned away from the window. Tomorrow she would start training again. There was still so much to learn, still so much to prove. But tonight she would rest. She had earned it. The end.